So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, Rebecca Kemble.
Hello, everybody. Is this working? You have to hold it really close. Okay.
Got to hold it really close to your mouth.
Hello, everybody, and welcome.
Like to ask those of you that are talking to please take your conversations out into the hall if you need to, or whisper super quietly. Thank you.
I would like to extend a special welcome to all the provocateurs and undercover police agents in the room. We know you're here because in this room are Palestinians and members of the American Indian movement, your worst nightmare. So welcome. We all know you're here when we're talking about horizontal violence and circular firing squads. A lot of that is because there's provocateurs in our midst and we should just, recognize them, welcome them. We're fighting for your families too, guys, So on our panel today, we have from, it's my right, it's your left to right, Montre Moore, who is the Membership and Coordination Director for the Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition. He also serves on the Wisconsin Green Bank Commission as the first Vice President of the Waukesha County NAACP. Montre is a devoted father of 2 wonderful children, an unwavering advocate for urban environmentalism, and a catalyst for positive change within his community. He has built a robust career as a solutions-focused executive with a deep commitment to environmental justice. Emily Park here is one of the co-executive directors of 350 Wisconsin, a grassroots climate justice organization, and its sister organization, 350 Wisconsin Action, which engages in electoral work. She has organized and engaged in activist work around fossil fuel infrastructure and financing, community sustainability, clean energy deployment, and state and federal policy. Emily has a degree in earth and planetary sciences and environmental sciences from Washington University in St. Louis. And in her free time, she enjoys crafting and collecting crafting supplies. Sister. Reading, hiking, and cooking. Olivier Watt is a climate activist who has resisted pipelines for 15 years. Based in Montreal, Quebec, he has worked mostly there, but also in Ottawa, Toronto, Vancouver, and Europe. Olivier co-founded a collective of climber activists, the Antigone Collective. Their mission is to creatively escalate pressure on governments and support allied progressive groups. Olivier also founded Life Defends Itself, a citizen campaign focused on the shutdown of the Enbridge Line 9B, which is the extension of Enbridge Line 5, which is the extension of Enbridge Line 93, which is the extension of Enbridge Line 3 that goes all the way to Fort McMurray and the tar sands. Anyway, we're going to shut her down. Olivier and I are actually also members of the cross-border organizing working group of the Line 5 Coalition, and Emily organization supports the Line 5 Coalition. We're all connected. We're all relatives. Nokomis Grandma Deborah Topping is the co-founder of RISE, Resilient Indigenous Sisters Engaging Coalition from Nagajiwanong, Fond du Lac Reservation in Minnesota. She's a grandma, a land defender, and a water drinker. Yes, as we are. So, that last panel was intense and talked about the sort of huge issue of our time, genocide and warmongering, and the other one is completely linked to it, which is the climate chaos and climate chaos. What can we call it? That is fueled by heavily by fossil fuel extraction. And the US military itself is the world's single largest institutional consumer of petroleum. And the US Department of Defense is the country's largest consumer of petroleum. So we can, we all do need to think about transitioning away in our personal lives and doing things to conserve and everything. But you know what? If we shut those pipelines down and if we stop war, what a huge effect that will have on our mother, right? What a huge effect. So all same struggle. We're all different, working in different parts of the struggle. And so our panelists are going to talk a little bit about what they do and why they do it. And the way the last panel went, I think just add in, I don't think we're going to have time for 2 rounds, but add in why making alliances and building relationships are important to you and what kind of relationships you've built in your work.
Well, first and foremost, good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Montre Moore. I do too much, but I don't do enough as it relates to the climate emergency that we're in. We don't have to debate it. We don't have to, have all these long, drawn-out conversations. We are literally seeing it each and every day on our television screens, on our news feeds, on our phones. And so we can't run from it and we can't deny it any longer. And so I just want to thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your effort. Thank you for your energy and spending a weekend, a cold weekend at that, in our state capitol, understanding our opportunity and being willing to show up and play your role. Let me also take just a few seconds to thank Tim and the amazing Building Unity family that has organized this space. I can't say how impactful Tim is. I feel if we had 10 more Tims, we would be okay. But I'm thankful for his friendship and I'm thankful for him as a leader in this space and fighting diligently day and night to do his part. So I really appreciate that. So I represent an organization called the Midwest Building Decarbonization Coalition. It's a lot to say, but I'll give you a little background because I don't want to take too long because I'm very interested in what we might accomplish in our breakout sessions. However, I started my environmental and climate justice career roughly about 20 years ago, even though I only look like I'm 25. And I literally was voluntold to go to Washington, D.C., because I had to testify in front of the EPA as related to coal burning power plants, those wonderful things that we energies love, to put right dead smack in our neighborhoods that often we have no idea what they even are. And so I literally had to do a deep dive overnight and say, wow, how do I make this make sense to these folks? And how do I make sure that they are understanding the parallel of my community? And so I've been here 20 years, I've gone down the rabbit hole, and like the spiritual leader was saying earlier, I truly believe I found my purpose as to why I'm existing in this space and time. And so that led me to several other things, to say the least. But if you know me, I spent a little time as the Wisconsin Environmental Climate Justice Chair, where I was really excited to connect with individuals such as Tim, as well as other environmental climate justice leaders from across the state to really understand, okay, how do we make sense of this all? Now that we've clearly identified, yes, there's a problem, how do we as a community move forward and make sure all, not just some, are part of that transition? And so I'm very proud of the work that I've done, and I'm even more excited about the future. We definitely know that we have some trying times ahead, but honestly, I have always felt like when the temperature was turned up, that's when I fought the hardest. When the things seem most parallel and the battles seem so daunting, that's when I pulled, my big boy pants on and really made sense of the moment. And that's why I'm encouraging us to do as well, to look to see, understand, how do we create relationships? And why is relationships important? Back to your question, let me thank you. I'll take a moment to talk about that. So relationships are hugely important because progress moves at the speed of relationships. I know it sounds like the simplest thing ever, but if I know you and we have communion and we have an understanding, just like I know Tim, we can come together. And that progress is going to move a lot swifter because that background has already kind of been put forth. And so I think that's hugely important, not only for us as organizers, but for us as a community. So a little bit more about the Midwest BDC. It's an organization that's currently fighting diligently to better understand how do we decarbonize our building spaces. Our homes, our hospitals, our office buildings are all causing huge pollution. Almost 45% of the pollution that we're seeing in our atmosphere It's literally coming from our building space. And so this organization is focusing on providing resources to those at the bottom, those most impacted, those unfortunately that look like me, in those communities that possibly just can't afford to say, yeah, I got $40,000 to throw up some solar panels. You know, it's not that simple, even though sometimes we wish it was. And so my thought and understanding as we move forward is, how do we not only look at one community, how do we not only look at one state, but how do we look at this thing called the Midwest, which is a tremendous asset that we truly need to understand and value. So we're talking about pollution, we're talking about climate change, we're talking about the future. And so the next 20, 30, 40 years, we got our work cut out for us. The Midwest is not only going to be a climate migration haven for those within our country, but the entire world will look at the Midwest as an opportunity to build, rebuild after some of these horrific disasters continue to happen, because we already know they're not going to stop. We already know there's no need to debate. Just turn your television on and then you can debate with the television. But however, how do we make sense of it? And how do we really step back and say, yes, this is a very critical moment. There's a lot going on, but we need a plan. We need a long range plan to understand where are our resources, where are our allies, and where are our assets. And in that space and time, I think we can truly, make some groundbreaking understandings to even make this fight real and make it tangible. My organization has a goal of decarbonizing, it's a big word, the building space by 2025. Okay, what does that mean? That's just pie in the sky if we don't really make sense of how to come up with tactics and resources that all people can utilize and understand how to bring that together. So again, I can get on a soapbox about this stuff, but if you want to learn more about the Midwest BDC, if you want to learn more about comprehensive long-range planning, which I believe is going to be required to really get us to our goals, please join me in our breakout session. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. My name is Emily Park. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm with 350 Wisconsin. We are a grassroots climate action group. I think a lot of what I'm going to say here is not going to be revolutionary or new. I mean, everybody here knows that the climate crisis is real. And I think everybody here understands how climate and sustainability are related to everything else that are part of Building Unity's pillars. I did want to talk a little bit about Thursday's energy emergency declaration from Governor Evers, where I think we all know there's a big storm system moving across the country, even though we're not getting a lot of snow here. And looking ahead, it's going to get very, very cold next week. So Governor Evers has declared an energy emergency, citing the increased demand for heating fuel, which will strain the delivery of essential products, which will strain our grids. And as he put, quote, getting residential heating fuel like propane and heating oil moving now to those in need, it will help Wisconsinites remain safe. I don't disagree that we're in an energy emergency. I guess I just really wish he hadn't framed it around propane and heating oil and framing it around how do we get that oil across the state, because I think, as some of my fellow panelists will talk about, there is no such thing as safe fossil fuel transport. Pipelines will leak. I mean, we see what happened with Line 6 in Jefferson County just last month. We've seen what's happened with countless other pipelines. We've seen trucker spills. We've seen train derailments. So there is no such thing as safe fossil fuel transport. So what I would challenge people in power to think about, how can we reshape the way we think about energy distribution in this country and in this world? Something else I've been thinking a lot, especially today, but in general, I think a lot of us in school probably learned about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you have to address your most basic needs before you can think further up the pyramid. I have fallen into this trap before, thinking that people are apathetic to the climate crisis. People are apathetic about what's happening in Gaza. And I don't think it's so much about apathy. I think it's people are worried about surviving from day to day. And until we help them survive from day to day, they have no intellectual or emotional capacity to even think about things that seem half a world away. So if you are someone who is struggling to just keep your heat on, if you are having to pick between, do I pay for medical care? Do I pay for childcare? Do I pay for food? Or do I keep my home at a livable temperature? How can we expect you to show up for other issues that seem not immediately relevant? And as we know, energy shortages in Wisconsin and around the world are going to cause price increases. We already heard from the Peace panel about how the climate crisis and the fossil fuel extractive industry are inextricably intertwined with the question of peace in the Middle East. We know that in other countries, demand for solar panel materials and battery materials, that's directly exploiting indigenous communities here in the United States. It's exploiting developing communities around the world. And so we need to think about how are we deploying our renewable energy infrastructure in a way that's accessible to everyone. As Montre said, not everyone has the money laying around to put solar panels on their home. Not everybody owns their home. So how can we think about deploying these resources? So distributed solar, utility scale solar and wind, making sure that these projects benefit the local communities. So we're not talking about exploiting rural communities. We're not talking about taking away farmers' source of income. And we're not talking about making the renewable energy accessible only for the wealthy. So how can we make it so that people have access to affordable housing that has the energy upgrades it needs? And again, in a way that does not exploit other countries, other communities, indigenous communities here in the United States. So I think that kind of comes around to your question about relationship building. I'm going to try to keep this short. I know we're short on time.
You're good.
Yeah. I think we're in the environmental community constantly reminding ourselves that people are struggling to survive day to day. So if I, as a member of 350 Wisconsin, or anybody else here as a member of your community, can look at other people and say, how can I help you address your basic needs, your need to have breathable air in your community, your need to be able to afford just to live from day to day, and then help you free up the capacity to help us fight some of these larger issues that we're facing on an existential level. I think we're not going to get anywhere without that. And I think having the compassion and peace and understanding for all of us to know that we're all showing up in the way we can, at whatever capacity we can. And that's okay if some people have to take a step back, as long as we're holding that space for each other.
Thanks so much, Emily. Very much.
All right. Hi, everyone. I've been told to talk for 15 minutes, which is really dangerous for me saying that. So I'm gonna put a timer, okay, just to be sure. Okay. So hi everyone. I'm Olivier. You can call me Oliver if you want. I'm come from Montreal, Quebec, which is the most extreme extension of the pipeline network in North America. Thanks for Rebecca for inviting me first, and thanks for Tim for accepting me and putting me on the line here, which first I was just thinking participating. I will be glad to, I took some notes because there's so much happening in Quebec right now, and I want to try to synthesize it. First, I would like to say that, well, I come from what is called Tiohtià:ke, which is AKA Montreal, which is part of the territory of the Kanien'kehá:ka Nation, also known as the Mohawk. Sorry if I don't pronounce it well. Yeah. As you said, thanks. And the other thing I would say is that I was really proud to be doing a link with the former panel we had. I was really proud in participating in the McGill University encampment for Palestine, for peace in the Middle East. And we were one of the longest mobilization during the spring of the last spring mobilization. And we did have a legal success because the university tried a lot to remove the encampment, and we resisted that for like 4 months. And it was an awesome time for mobilization, because it was a time when anti-war activists, progressive activists, and also climate activists went together, and we shared a lot, and we fight together. And now we are, as an activist community, we are much stronger, and we learn from each other. So that's why I got this, because, and I show it to everybody I can in support. So just to describe a bit in kind of a chronology of what did my group did for the last year. Like in 2018, there was the big, you may know, the United Nations IPCC report, which was the first time the IPCC went out of his usual neutral stance, and he said, okay, like now the situation is critical. It's critical, and we need immediate citizen action. So, as you may know, also when being part of, there was the Extinction Rebellion movement that was born from it. There also was thousands of scientific getting involved in direct action. Also, so usually scientists are in their labs, but they thought it was urgent to go on the street and join the movement. So me and my friends were about 15 climate activists. We were trained by Greenpeace in Montreal, and we decided to form the Antigone Collective. Because we realized that mostly three things. It's like nothing is useless. Like nothing that we do for the climate is useless. Every molecule of carbon we remove from the atmosphere is a great thing. But we also realize that it's not enough. Like everything that we do right now for the climate is just not enough for preventing from the worst. So we have to escalate the pressure. And so the second thing we realize is that Canada is now basically a petro state. The oil industry is taking more and more a big part of our economy, and it's now influencing the politics everywhere on every level. So that was kind of we realized that Canada was among the top 5 exporting oil country in the world. And when we realize that it makes a lot of sense that it's so much difficult to do real climate action in Canada, because they're everywhere. We've seen their money everywhere, and I'm talking about the oil industry. And the third thing we realize, it's like the government will not save us. Even the banks, the NGOs are great doing their effort, but we realize that the authorities will not save us. We are the one who's going to save ourselves from the climate, the worst of the climate. So now what do we do? Well, it's kind of simple. We establish a strategy and we organize. And by strategy, we start what are our means? What resource do we have? And back in 2019, when we started, we didn't have much. In fact, we did have less than much. So we decided that we would fight mainly the pipelines. So why the pipelines? We could fight against many things like trains, or we could fight against banks that financing the oil industry, which many people do. But as citizens, why fighting the pipeline? That's because that they are the backbone of all the oil industry. The oil in Canada, mostly in Canada, and even in the United States, are mainly inland. So to be able to transport it, export it, refine it, you have to move it across pipeline. Sorry, English is not my first language, so I'm trying hard.
Great.
Okay, thanks. So we have to move it across the country, across our territory with pipelines. And there's no cheapest way to do it than pipelines. So if we shut down those infrastructure, all the oil industry will collapse. And the good thing with pipelines, it's like a chain. If you cut one part of the chain, all the chains go down. So you could stop a truck, there are going to be other trucks. You could stop a train, a boat, there's going to be other boats. But if you cut down one piece of a pipeline, and when I say cutting down, that's saying we're not violent here also. Are we? By shutting down, it could be any time of shutting it down, but we're talking about like stopping a pump station, or maybe just remove a pipeline, you know, like make maybe a state governor, for example, could order to shut down a line, okay? But
Or not permit one.
or not, yeah, we could stop. What? That's a good point, because in Quebec we've been successful by stopping 2 new pipelines being constructed. There was a big project, Energy East, 2015, which we succeed to cancel. And then there was another big project of liquid gas, 2018, that we also blocked. So, like, I think for the oil industry, it's clear now that Quebec is like a no new pipeline territory. They're just gonna stop trying, I guess. Thanks. And wait for it, we also were able to have a law to ban all new drilling oil in our territory. Which, yeah, thanks. That's a great achievement. But it's kind of symbolic because we didn't have really drilling oil already in Quebec, so it was easy to ban. But that's the point. We didn't even started to create the oil industry in Quebec, so we didn't have to save jobs. We just stop it at the roots, which is much easier. So we did that, and hopefully you guys will be able to do it, and we can show you how. No, I know you know how to do it. We can help you, because with what's thing we also learn is that it's really great to be like the question is you did about the unity, the relationship, is that it's really more fun to do it with other friends. And we, thanks to Enbridge, now I have friends in Ontario, Michigan, and Wisconsin, and Minnesota. Thanks so much to Enbridge for that. And now, Ingrid Falls, you can retire. You did good. Yeah. Now, the real thing is that what is uniting us right now, for me, is the watershed. It's the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence watershed. Yeah. It was not a joke. Like, if you Enbridge folks, don't quote me on that. So we started by first thing in 2019. We started like sounding the alarm. So we climbed the most iconic bridge in Montreal, which was one of the most iconic place in Montreal to tell widely a message. And we climbed the Jacques Cartier Bridge. For anybody who went to Montreal, it's really like the bridge when you think of bridge. And Montreal is an island, by the way, so it's really cool. So we got a lot of attention, but we got a lot of mobilization, people supporting us. We got some more money, people giving us, but there was a lot of people angry about it, like which we can understand because people want to go to work. So they told us, oh, stop bothering people and go see the real bad guys, which is the oil industry. So we said, okay, we're going to do that. So in 2022, we stopped the end of Line 9 for 24 hours. How can climbers block a pipeline under the earth? You're going to ask? Is that, well, the end of the Line 9 is a docking for fueling tankers. And how you can do that is that the pipes go out of the earth, and it's big towers, and those towers go down on tankers, and the tankers are being refueled. So we climbed the towers so that the towers could not go down anymore. And for a day, we sat there it was really a great climbing challenge. It was really cold. We got the worst like day of October of that year. But we managed to stay there for a day. We prevented the 2 or 3 tankers of being filled that day and going to the St. Lawrence River, which is a win. I gotta have a clap for that. Because it was so cold. You don't even imagine. And then after that, we did this big action. And usually they talk it for some days in the media, and then after, we don't talk it anymore. So we say, how can we extend this action? So that's the point where we're getting really serious. We started a legal strategy. So we hired really awesome lawyers. We did a lot of fundraising because even though they doing a good price, it's not cheap. And we started what we called a necessity defense. It's like self-defense, but instead of focusing on an immediate threat, it's more like we're asking the judge for doing a wider interpretation of the law and not just use the immediate threat, but maybe a less immediate threat, but maybe the people in Los Angeles right now would say otherwise. But it's more like an existential threat. That's it? That's the word? Yeah. So we're asking the judge to interpret the law in that way, and to say that we should be found not guilty of trespassing the law because we're doing self-defense action. And what is the result of that? We're gonna know in 14th of March. Because there was an also, the good thing, well, for nerds, for me, it was really great because for 6 days, we have a lot of scientifics, people, specialists who did a big testimony to support our cause, not about the climate, but they said also that people mobilization is useful, direct action is useful to change the policies. And so what we are doing right now, the scientific says it's useful. So big clap to everyone. Yeah, it's confirmed by the science. So we're gonna know the result of that 14th of March. If we're found not guilty, then it's a huge legal precedent, but usually the state will gonna go on appeal. So we're not done with that yet. And if we're not guilty, if we're guilty, we may have a criminal record, but sometimes you got to put yourself in the line. And sadly, maybe it's the last time I can go to the United States. I really enjoy myself right now. But you can come visit me if you want. But still, we're also going to go, if we're guilty, we're going to go in appeal too. So we're still not finished with that. So the only thing I want to say is, and we did also another action, which is wider. We did a citizen campaign against Line 9. It's called the Life Defends Itself campaign, which is the official group I'm representing now, member of the cross-border organization. And it's a people mobilizing a huge campaign. And this time we use another tool. It's called an ultimatum. Okay, so we're doing really straightforward with your government. We're saying you have 5 years to stop the pipeline 9 and start to yeah, 1 minute, okay, and start to deconstruct it. Well, decommission. Yeah, like remove it from the ground altogether. Okay, so we think that it's not enough to stop new project. We have to start to decommission and remove the oil infrastructure from the ground. And we gave our Canadian government 5 years to do that. And if they don't, we're gonna continue to mobilize every year, doubling, and increasing the mobilization until we shut it down ourselves. So if everything goes to plan in 2028, we're gonna be thousands of people in Quebec and Ontario, and we're gonna successfully decommission the first pipeline in Canada history. So stay tuned. Thanks, everyone.
can't see you all. I'm too short. Bonjour, dinwe maganadug. Bungi etego nini tau jibwayam. Oh, gin dash gig wage tune o jibwe mo young. Awani kwe nin indigena kaj nagachi wanang indun jaba. Neo de guaba igening. Magizi du dame. Niswe. Nandanis. Niwen Nuzasug, Miigwech Bizendawig. Bonjour, relatives. My name is Deborah Topping. I am from Fond du Lac Reservation in Duluth, Cloquet, Minnesota. And let's see, so my Ojibwe name is Awanikwe, and that is what they call me. Who is they? They is the spirits, the Manadu, the spirits, ancestors, right? So this that's what they call me, Awanikwe. I have 3 daughters. I have 4 grandsons, 3 grandsons and 1 granddaughter, and now I'm going to be a great grandma. Can't believe it, considering I'm 29. So let's see what you want to know about RISE Coalition. So, Resilient Indigenous Sisters Engaging. We met, it all came about on a prayer. I've been attending all of these public utility commission hearings, public hearings. And every time I attended one in a room this big, there was nothing but middle-aged white men who were talking about the economy, economics, right? Jobs. And I looked around and I thought, well, doesn't anybody drink water? So we're just not even concerned about our water? And it was really hard for me to get up and say anything, right? Because what do I know? I just got off work. I just got done racing. I don't know anything. I don't know how many barrels of oil is going through the pipeline. I don't know how big the pipeline is. I don't know when it was built. I don't know what it's going through, what's going through it. But I know that every time I go through my reservation, I have to go drive over it 6 times. And I didn't know that I even had a pipeline on my reservation until 2009. Can you imagine? So anyways, RISE Coalition, going to all of these meetings, attending everything, and I would see all these other women attending. And I know for me, I want to have somebody with me, come on, hey, let's go, but I would see all these other women show up all by themselves, and strong women, they would come up there and they would say what's on their mind and tell you. And so my job was ending here. And so I invited everybody over to my cabin. And it was a day like this, cold, but we had more snow. And you know what they say, you got to invite a gazillion people to get 5 people, right? So I'm trying to think of a gazillion people to invite. And as you know, that only the people who need to be there will show up. So let me back up a little bit. April 26, 2018. Does anybody know where you were at? Yes, that's for sure. Husky Refinery in Superior, Wisconsin exploded. Sherry and I were going around and we were getting water samples because I figured nobody else would, but if anybody else did, could I trust them? So we went around all over Duluth, Superior, and we finally pulled into this little area down by the St. Louis River. And I have a SEMA in my hand, tobacco. And to me, this is my direct line to creator, right? So I can talk right to him, her, okay? And so as I was standing there on the riverbank, I came across a sign that said, this sign was built by whoever. Okay, whatever. Next, I go to another little boulder and it says, this boulder was erected here in 1826, where the very first treaty was signed. Wow. Can you imagine? I am standing where the very first treaty was signed. They say there were 600 families there. There was wild rice in the river. There was sturgeon. There was, anyways. As I'm standing there thinking how amazed I am that I'm standing here, what is that, 200 years later? I see a sign that says no trespassing. But I gotta, I've been seeing that sign my whole life, so I just need to grit my teeth and walk on by, right? I got my SEMA in my hand. I got talk to creator. So I go up to that. I go to the banks of the river and I see swans coming in. I see geese coming in. It's April, right? Everybody's coming back and everybody's landing in that river. And in the background, I could see Husky blowing up. And over there, I know is the reservation 15 miles away, and that's where they're digging it up again. And behind me is Highway 23, where they have dug up our bodies. They know that we are buried there, and they have dug us up. Not once, not twice, not even 3 times. So I'm standing there. And I am so devastated. Doesn't anybody know what's going on? Don't people know that they're poisoning our water? Don't they know? Can't they see this black plume that is killing us? Who's going to help us? Who's going to tell all of these people that this is happening? Who's going to tell my grandchild that he can't drink this water? And so I set my SEMA down in that water. And I said, please, we need somebody to get up and talk and say something about this. And I thought, who can do it? I don't know anybody else who knows what I know. I haven't heard anybody else say, you know what, Deb? Let me protect your water for you. Let me protect the water for your child, for your daughter, for your wife, for your husband. I didn't hear any of that. And so I realized then at that point in time, guess who's got to do it? And like I said, I don't know anything. But I do know that poisoning my water, poisoning my wild rice is genocide. So that is how Rise came about, is on the side of the river with a prayer. Resilient Indigenous sisters engaging. We have Sherry Kuchar, Don Goodwin, Karen Durfee, and myself. Don lives in 1855 Treaty Territory, which is on White Earth Reservation. The rest of us live in 1854, which is right before you get to Duluth. And I thought, we have a chance. Fuck yeah, Fond du Lac is gonna kick some ass. We are not gonna let them come to the western part of the lake. This is historical. We are here because Creator put us here, right? And when I was telling you, when they, remember when I was telling you about them, and they named me, I went up, when I was with Creator, I said, Creator, I'm ready to go down to earth. And she said, wait a minute, Becca, wait a minute. She said, what are you gonna learn when you're down there? You mean I gotta do something? I thought we were just gonna have a good time. So all right, and I gotta go back and figure out what I'm gonna learn. All right, I figured it out. Yahoo, let's go. Go back to Creator and say, all right, this is what I'm gonna learn. Creator says, now who's gonna tell you? Who's gonna teach you this? So now I gotta go back and figure it all out. I gotta figure out who my mom is, who my dad is, who all the people who hurt me, who all the people who taught me, who all the people who loved me, who all the people who are here listening to what I am saying. I chose you all to be here to help, because I am not in this by myself, right? We are all in this together. So, miigwech, Bizendawieg.
Joe, do you want to say something?
That song is known as the American Indian Anthem. It's right into the mic. Okay. What?
Against my father, spirit of the sky. Don't you ever tell me to shut up. This is my father that's crying.
We sang this song to honor those that came before us. Because without them, we would not know who we are. And it was those ancestors that chose Deborah, that chose many of us in this room. Because I'll tell you something, it's not a life we choose, because it's not easy. But we show up where and when we're needed, anytime, any place, anywhere. And I'm proud to be in this room with some of those people. You know, I'm wearing a shirt. It says Defend Ohio. The Ohio is also known as the Allegheny River. And it was under attack. And when it came under attack, first meeting, 2 guys showed up. Second meeting, a few more. The third, we had 200. We defeated that proposal. We just defeated another proposal to send frack gas underneath the river. But I will say this, we have a lot of people in our communities that won't come to a meeting like this. But when we need them, we come out strong. And that's what we do as Indigenous people. We will continue because we have been battling. We know Trump. He's just another in a long line of Hanadaganyas. He destroys the village. I like the other name too, Walking Eagle. So full of shit it can't fly. See, because we gotta have laughter. Because sometimes, you know, my people, when we adopted the Great Law of Peace, we lost our word for soldiers, ones who go into battle. But we now have the understanding of what a warrior is. And a warrior is a man or a woman who carries the weight of the village, of the people on their shoulders. And it's a heavy burden, but at times it's very light. It's very light when we start out and there's one of us by the river praying. And the next thing you know, there's a couple more, and then there's hundreds. That's unity. So whether it's defending our way of life, which includes our wild rice, which includes the fish. I live in a community, we can't eat the fish. We got nuclear contamination upriver. It's known as one of the best sport fisheries in the country. I don't fish because I'm not going to yank them around if I can't eat them. Why? I guess I'm getting pulled here. But it's really important that we take a moment to acknowledge those of us that aren't in this room, Because none of us do what we do without support from home. Whether it's a kind word, whether it's, here, have this meal. Here's 20 bucks for gas. Or just somebody saying, be careful out there. Because when those things are said, when those things are done, we know that we travel with love. And that's what brings us here. And that is what's going to get us through, has gotten us through, will continue to get us through. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe, and for all of the people who have showed up here. They've showed up for a reason, because we're doing an action on Monday. We'll be here at 9 a.m. at the state capitol, and then we're walking to the DNR, the state DNR, because 3 days after the oil spill in the town of Oakland, Wisconsin, that was originally reported to be 2 gallons, but which is 70,000 plus gallons of oil right next to the only inlet into Lake Ripley in the community of Cambridge, the only water body that goes through there. Parentheses, many of us visited there, put Asema down in the water. And what we learned when we were there was that the people of that community love their water and they love their land. And they might not know what an evil corporation Enbridge is, because Enbridge is going in their communities, giving them, like, buying them vans. I looked this up last night. I was up till 2 a.m. researching this. They bought that community a van for community service, you know. So there, I also found out late last night that they had a meeting on Wednesday night, Enbridge, with the people of that town of Oakland. That was very hush hush. They didn't want any outsiders there. Any outsiders who came in, they weren't allowed to speak. Only the town of Oakland people were allowed to ask a question, not even just speak. So it was all hush hush. Our DNR is aware of this shady behavior. But 3 days after that spill, our DNR issued permits to allow for the new pipeline to be built on line 5. And we're saying that is not only a shame, that is unconscionable, that is maybe even illegal. But what we've also learned, Joe and Frank and all of the people we have been, Erica, we have been fighting these pipelines with since at least 2014 was Sandpiper started, then Standing Rock, then line 3, now line 5. And we've built family with each other doing this. And we're showing up for each other, and we're saying, like, as Olivier said, if we can stop one segment of this line, the whole thing shuts down. So we need to stand up and show up. We're going to show up at the Capitol 9 a.m. tomorrow, and really tomorrow at 4:30, we're meeting at the Social Justice Center to just chat and, you know, have an educational about, you know, the things Olivier does and the things other people do. So if you want to come to that, 4:30 Social Justice Center, 1202 Williamson Street, and then 9 a.m. we'll be doing our actions to say, you do not represent the people. You do not represent the water. You do not represent the land. And, you know, when I first heard about this oil spill, I posted the pictures that Frank and another comrade, B, with her drone, went out and got the photos of the actual spill. We heard about it, but we didn't get photos. So they showed up, they took the pictures, and those are the pictures you've seen in the media, in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, in the Wisconsin State Journal, in the Cap Times. It's people showing up, doing that, feeding that to the media and saying, this shit is happening and you're not covering it. It's up to us to speak and witness what is happening on the land in our waters. And, you know, what I said then, wherever you are, please do everything you can to learn about and make relationships with and protect the land and water where you live. Period. Of the DNR. And I think we even have the guy's number. We can publish it. Greg has his number. We'll give him the number. So thank you all for being here, and we'll be downstairs if you want to talk more.
Thank you. Okay, listen up. This has been amazing, and of course, more than we dreamed of. More than we dreamed of, but we're basically out of time. But I'm going to ask Montre, and there's 3 panels. There's actually 3 breakout groups that are for the environment. The Olivier Group 7 here with Rebecca and Nokomis. That's one. Emily's going to be a group representing 350, and Montre with the Midwest Building Decarbonization. They're all going down 2 flights to the North Hearing Room. So basically right below us, 2 flights in the elevator. You may go now and wait for and the rest of you, the anti-war people have their signs up if you want to go with Krista or Janan or Esty in the room here. In this room here, find a spot. It's kind of challenging, I'll admit. You could find a spot out in the hall if you prefer, drag some chairs out there. And then we'll all be back in about 15 minutes to wrap up. So it's just a quick chance to say hi and talk a little more with any of the panelists. And if you're missing keys, there are keys at the registration table. If you're missing your car keys, they're at the they're right here. Oh, they're at the registration table. Thank you. All right, people. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. All right, friends, I'm sorry that we're cutting this so short, but we got to cut this short because we got to get out of here. So could I have everybody's attention, please? Attention, please. Thank you. Let's share a little moment together, listening, breathing. If you can hear me, please keep listening to me. And what we'd like to do is hear from the different groups. So raise your hand if you're part of a group and you'd like to share one thing that came out of your little group. And then we're gonna all head for the doors. All right, so Janan, do you want to kick things off, or your group? And let me give you a microphone so that we can hear you.
Okay, so we had a really robust discussion here actually on what items we really want to focus on, at least breaking them down this coming year. And so first of all was we got everyone's contact information because we want this BDS legislation to be overturned. And so we want to get everyone on board. We also talked about really putting pressure on the Democrats so that, you know, they're still not taking ownership for the decisions that they made. We also, that I thought was very interesting, and I think a very mature decision, is that, you know, we don't have much choice. We have to engage with the Republicans. And so I think we need to find ways to find common ground and to try to push them to kind of help bring about some of the change that we want. And so that means having continuous meetings with legislators and also with their people in the office. So
thank you, Janan. All right, another group. Esty, is your group ready to say anything or share anything at this time? And thank you so much.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, we had a group of about 10 people. We mainly discussed some of the questions around how you would engage in discussion around Palestine with people that may not know as much about the true nature of the conflict in the region. The main point that we discussed was what is the difference between Zionism and Judaism? The answer is that Judaism is the religion of the Jewish people, while Zionism is a relatively new phenomenon created by Christians and an effort to relocate the Jewish people by both the United States and Great Britain to Palestine for the purposes of colonialism and allyship with regard to capturing those natural resources over there. It became a larger movement towards the beginning of the 20th century when Herzl spread the idea of a Jewish state that really led to the actual relocation of the Jewish people to the Palestinian land. And then the next question that got brought up was, well, what if someone is arguing that Israel was always Jewish land? The counterpoints to that are that the area in Palestine and what is now Israel, but had been Palestine in the past. It's always been in kind of an amalgamation of many peoples of different faith over thousands of years. And the Jewish people were exiled from the land approximately 2,000 years prior to the rise of Zionism, so hadn't been living there, while this other cultural or like multicultural group of people was.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to interrupt because we have to get out of here. And it's going to take us 5 minutes at least to go. But we will have more time to talk tomorrow. And I apologize for cutting you off, but we have to be out of the building. Please join us at the crossing. Doors will open up there as soon as I get there. And I'm trying to get over there as soon as I can. And we will have dancing, another big feast, and a beautiful concert beforehand, and plenty of time to talk with people over dinner. So please exit the room as quick as you can, and we'll see you tomorrow. We'll be open as early as 8 a.m. and the show will start with indigenous drumming and singing at 9 a.m. So hopefully see you here same time tomorrow. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
It's called Gaza in Context. You can find it online.
I think we just leave them here for tomorrow.